Hey guys, welcome to the Mic Drop. My name's Alexis Rosado. If you've never been to the Mic Drop before, it is a safe space for creatives to show us what they got on the mic. It started at Blue Owl Coffee Shop in partnership with All of the Above Hip Hop Academy. It was an awesome space where we all got together and were able to get on the mic and perform and show what we got. So we decided to bring it to you digitally with a little bit more intimate show where we get to get real and have a spotlight moment and talk about our craft. And so today I have an all ladies lineup. First up, woo woo, yes. First up, we have Allison Spooner. Hey. After Allison, we will have Jordan, who does Compose the Way. And then last we have KELSEY BRIANNE. Awesome. So first up, we're going to have Allison Spooner perform. I'm super excited because I have not been able to get to know Allison and her work. So you're seeing her for the first time, and so am I, and I'm super pumped. Allison, how are you?
Hey there, I am great. I'm so excited to be here because I haven't been able to interact with you that much either. So two worlds coming together.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so tell us a little bit about what you do and what you're performing today.
So I am an author and I primarily write flash fiction. So that is complete stories in less than 1,000 words. I write in all genres. So you can find sci-fi, you can find comedy. A lot of my stuff is fairly dark, which you will find out this evening. I have two books. Two collections of flash fiction, Flash in the Dark, a collection of flash fiction, and The Problem with Humans and Other Stories. You can find those both on Amazon, or you can get a peek at my work at snacksizedfiction.com as well.
What a cute name, Snack Size Fiction.
It is snackable fiction. You can digest whenever.
Are you reading one of the pieces from one of those books today?
Tonight I'm actually reading brand new stuff.
Ooh,
so
right here on the Mic Drop, yes.
So this is pandemic inspired work, I would say. So stuff that's been written during the pandemic. I know a lot of people probably try to write to escape what's happening. I think have been writing a lot to process everything that's happening. So a lot of it does appear in the work. So I hope it doesn't depress anyone too much, but it's just kind of what came out. So
yes, take it away. I can't wait to hear it.
All right. So I did say that most of my pieces are usually less than 1,000 words. The first sticks to that. The second is a little bit longer. But the second is something, a piece that I'm really excited about. I premiered it at the Artist Umbrella, but it has not been read or shared very many places. So the first piece is called The Almost Home, and it was inspired kind of by some walks I take and some views on my walks around my neighborhood. I don't remember the last time I saw them. I don't know how long it's been since they stopped coming. I'm sure it's been at least a week or more since anyone has been by. They'd been so excited the last time they were here. The man had nodded his approval at my progress, and the woman had led the little one from room to room, describing the function of each almost wistfully. "This will be your room," she'd said, and even though the baby was small and didn't respond with words, I think the little girl understood. She reached her tiny fingers out and touched the glass of the brand new window as though she knew she would spend a childhood filled with bike rides and grass stains staring out of it, watching for her friends down the street to park their bikes out front and call to her. It was as though she could already see herself as a teenager, resting on the bed just under the window, her chin propped in her hand, watching the sunset and dreaming of her future, her freedom. The little one's tiny feet padded across the hardwood floor, and I shivered knowing that one day the weight of her steps would be heavier, though muffled by the carpet that would be one of the last things installed. Maybe once it was in, I would feel warmer, because right now I was chilled to my very foundation, the foundation that had been laid only months ago. My only warmth came from their visits, came from knowing that someday soon they would walk through the door, close it behind them, and be home. But now they'd stopped coming. Everyone. The men who would fill in my cracks and finish my walls, and the family that would reside within them. I waited every day to hear their excited voices echoing from the driveway, marveling at the progress that had been made in such a short time. Every time they opened the door and the breeze followed them from outside, I absorbed its sweetness and let it settle in, holding on to it until the next time the door opened. Now I don't remember how long it's been, but I remember what happened. First, the family stopped coming. Then the streets outside quieted little by little. Not as many cars drove by, even though the walkers and the dogs and the bikes seemed to keep their constant pace, especially on the sunny days. But even on the sunny days, the man, the woman, and the child stayed away. And then the men stopped coming. They'd bragged and laughed not that long ago about how soon I would be finished and how far ahead of schedule they were. And then they got worried. The news blasting from someone's truck spoke of a disease, and they glanced nervously at each other as they kept working, pushing through the sadness to bring joy to a family awaiting their first home. Then their numbers dwindled. The world around me was shifting, but I stopped changing. My foundation was laid, my windows installed, my walls were up, but that's all I was when they stopped coming, an empty shell. The houses around me were vibrant, colorful, and comforting, with decorative details and siding in different shades of whites, blues, and greens. Their exteriors were inviting, promising safety, and their insides glowed with light and laughter. Families who were told to stay home, sheltered inside their painted walls adorned with picture frames of family vacations and school portraits. They rested on the sofas placed at careful angles and ate at dinner tables set up by windows to get the best light. But I was empty inside. When it rained, there was no one to take shelter inside my walls, and when the temperature dropped, there was no one to turn up the heat. There was no heat. No water running through my pipes, no electricity buzzing through my nerves. Just emptiness, just loneliness, just the occasional gust of wind blowing against my closed door, offering me unrequited hope that there was someone on the other side. But there never was, and I had no idea if there ever would be again.
Wow, that's so powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Talk about a story that covers a pandemic. So descriptive. I felt like I was in the room, you know?
Thank you. Appreciate it. That is a actual, well, more finished now than it was, unfinished house on my street that I kept walking by and wondering if it would ever get finished.
Ooh. Is it almost, is there progress on that house?
There's been progress and then it stopped again. So I'm not sure what's going on, but now I'm always checking, and they have no idea why I'm so interested in their house.
You might have to drop off your piece to them once it's complete.
Might be a little creepy, but
Throw the story about your unfinished house.
yeah. Here you go. And it's not a beat.
You were the inspiration of this. Thank you.
Yeah. I also hope that there was not too much background noise during that.
All right. You're so captivating. You're good.
I'm good.
What you got next for us?
All right. So next I have another not upbeat piece. I apologize. You guys are unfamiliar with my work, but this is kind of the norm to get depressed by my stuff. This is called The Fifth Horseman, and I'll just leave it at that. In the first few hours of the morning light, as dawn touches a world that does not wake to it, hoofbeats echo against an already deafening silence. What has happened here? The world these men and their steeds have come to destroy has started the process without them. In fact, it is nearly finished. The streets are quiet, but not empty. They are packed with cars that do not move and trash that spills out from overturned bins and glides past the stalled vehicles. Front doors hang open, but no one enters or exits the quaint homes that line the tree-lined streets. The trash receptacles that still stand spew smoldering smoke. And then there are the bodies. War glares at Plague, but he shakes his head and shrugs, a gesture that says, "Not I." "Then who did this?" asks Famine, hungry for answers. From the silence once more comes the echo of hoof against pavement. They look to each other, but their animals are still. Through the fading darkness, a form approaches and the horses on which the four men ride rear back uncharacteristically. The riders shiver despite themselves, but each pretends not to notice the trepidation of the others. The smoke and early morning fog rolling around the figure part, like that sea from many lifetimes past, and the form becomes solid. War moves forward, ready for a fight. "Who are you?" "My name is Fear." The horsemen glance at each other. They were the bringers of fear. How had he appeared without them? "I do not need you to thrive," he answers the question they do not voice. "My parents are uncertainty and anger. I am born of doubt. To survive, I only need lies and those willing to spread them. I need distrust and sadness. I breed blame, and blame fuels the fires that build my strength." Fear's horse paces up and down the empty street in front of them, jittery, anxious, always glancing to his left and then his right. The empty houses make him nervous, and he moves closer to the other horses, looking for comfort, but they move away. "Why come here at all?" asks War, unwilling to give up a victory. "I was called here. Unlike you, I do not seek to destroy. I hide in the shadows, trying not to be noticed. I do not announce my presence, but fester slowly. The more you fight me, the stronger I become." War looks uneasy at this prospect. Plague glances down to a body at his feet, a body that seems to have perished on its way from a home to a vehicle, seeking escape, but finding release. This was not a death the man on the white horse had played a part in, and he looks to the stranger, still not understanding the new horseman's role in this destruction. "I did not do this," Plague insists. "I did not need you." You might say they were sick with fear. The gray horse pauses between the red and the pale, and Fear also looks down at the body. Plague shakes his head and backs away, moving farther from his brothers and the stranger among them. Fear motions to the desolate street behind him, littered with the remnants of a world that no longer exists. This destruction did not start as a plague. Sickness, yes, but not a plague. "But sickness alone will not do this," insists the man on the white horse. "No, but sickness coupled with ignorance and panic will." War tries to move toward the new rider, but his horse will not get too close, and as he speaks, the animal moves back. This cannot be the state of the world and all its people. But as Fear bows his head, War knows he is wrong, and the fire within him begins to dim. "But I was not here to inspire great battles." Fear cocks his head. "I did not need you." They fought, but they fought their friends. They fought against the things meant to protect them. They fought against a new way of life, clinging desperately to their old ways. "But I was not here to steal their sustenance." Famine tries to stand beside War, to protect his fellow soldier, but Fear stands between them. "I was their sustenance," Fear says. "When things looked grim, they fed on me. I sent them to hoard food and supplies. The well-off stored more than they could use, taking it from those that truly needed it. When their stores became rotted, they stepped into the world and searched for more, spreading their sickness even as they tried to find ways to survive. Fear and his gray horse moved through the street, surveying their work. The now obsolete horsemen try to lead their horses back together, to form a line of unity, but they can only look at each other above the head of fear, wondering where they went wrong. Do you not understand, prods fear? On my own, left unchecked, I created more destruction than you could ever dream. He turns at the sound of footsteps approaching. Yes, even you. The rider on the pale horse does not start at being addressed so overtly. His face remains passive, neutral. He has watched this exchange quietly, waiting for the right moment to strike, as death often does. But you, whispers fear, even he quiets when faced with death. You I did need. You were the shadow that let me thrive. They embraced me because of you. And now, fear dismounts his animal and bends at the waist toward the man on the pale horse. I bow to you, O death. As always, you are the true victor. But I wonder, what is victory without anyone to share it with? Without a word, death lifts his gaze from the man before him and searches the street for his brothers, but they have fled. The 4 horsemen who rode into this world together, now ripped apart by fear, just like the world they came to destroy.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness.
I was snapping
That is,
your auto. Oh.
I don't think your work is depressing at all. I think it's just really honest and it's really raw and it's really like captivating and beautiful in that way. So I didn't feel depressed by hearing any of that. I just felt
good.
like it was kind of fresh air, honestly. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Very profound. I feel like you have an insight for like translating a lot of things that are like happening and like a macro level and like pulling it in and being like, this is like you're deep AF. Like you like have a deepness to you. The depth of that is just so profound.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, and honestly, Allison, it's interesting. I think about there's been some poetry pieces where I try to personify anger or emotion, but that last one and even the first one, but it's the way you can create a story with these concepts that's just, yeah, you take people through a journey. So well done. I agree. We're like, change the way you introduce yourself. Don't say it's dark. Say,
Okay, sorry.
I speak a specific tint and color to the world. You're welcome.
There you go. Nice. I like it. I think I'm going to put deep AF on my bio, though.
Yeah, deep AF.
You're welcome. Good job. So it's your spotlight time where all of you are invited to ask Allison questions. I was going to ask you one question, which was, I guess I'll combine them. But how did you get into writing? But the real question also intertwined in there is, do you write for others or for yourself? I noticed some artists write with the intention to help or serve others, and some people write it as a form of expression for themselves. So would love for you to take that answer away.
Oh boy, I kind of thought this came at the end, so I was not 100% prepared. I started writing before I even can remember, so I always share the story that one of my first stories was written in my mom's handwriting because I was dictating it. So I was writing before I could even write. And it was just a stream of consciousness about what I was doing and singing a song and all that jazz. But I always felt the need to get my words out there. So that's just has been as long as I can remember. And I think whether I write for myself or other people, I think both. And I think it totally depends on my state of mind, the state of the world. And like that last one was probably more for me at first, but I think it ends up hopefully resonating with people and getting a message. the flash fiction, I think, came about by writing more what I wanted to do than trying to sell it. So I was focused on really writing a novel for a long time, but it just wasn't sitting with me. I couldn't finish it. Long story short, I kind of discovered Fiction 440 here in town, the event, and then some online contests. And I was like, you know what? I like this better. I like to finish something fast and get it out there and just share it as quickly as I can. So, so I guess the short answer is both.
That's a great answer. Thanks. Kelsey, pose away. Questions. What questions you got? Yeah, sorry, Allison. You're on the spot right away. It's spotlight.
Yeah, I guess I have like a two-part question. So right now, like as you can see, this massive stack of books here. I'm doing a lot of reading, but now I'm trying, like a lot of this stuff is like nonfiction, and it takes me a lot longer to read fiction just because I get so kind of like caught up in a lot of the details and I don't want to miss anything, so I have to be like very slow and intentional when I'm reading. But this question is about you and for you. So my question is, like, who are your favorite storytellers and what are some things that you've been reading in quarantine?
Oh gosh.
Good question.
It is a good question. I am recently realizing how much I love Neil Gaiman, and I just got a book of his short stories. I haven't actually read a lot of short stories before I started writing them. It wasn't a genre that I read a lot of. It sounds cheesy, and I always feel weird using it, but J.K. Rowling and the Harry Potter books were like a huge influence. They came out, and I'll date myself here, I started them when I was 15-ish, and a few of them were already out at that point. And I think that I knew I wanted to write before that, but at that point I was like, I want to give something like this to the world. I want to and before that I just loved, you know what, I'm not, that was like the first time I ever really was like idolized and loved an author that much. And I think I'll stick with that as my inspiration. And to be able to have that kind of an impact on the world, that it sticks with people for that long. Your story, the story that seems so simple just at face value, but really just worms its way into the hearts and souls of your readers. So it still sticks with me. So I hope to create something that will stick that long with people someday.
Yes. Kelsey, you have a question for Allison?
I do. So walk me through like your writing process. Like when you start writing, do you set out like, I want to write a short story? Like, do you have a kind of typical setup? Does it come to you more spontaneously? Or you just have to get like a pen and paper out, or are you doing it on your like walk me through what it typically looks like? Or if it's not typical, examples of what it looks like.
Yeah, so I'm really, for the first time in just the last few years, noticing that I have a process and really being aware of it, which is kind of interesting. I like prompts a lot. So Fiction 440, they give you 3 words that you need to include in your writing. I enter contests online all the time where they give you a genre, a location, and an object that you need to include. When I'm not doing stuff like that, I'm constantly asking people for prompts. Actually, The Fifth Horseman came from a prompt that someone gave me during my live storytelling event. I asked for prompts, and I think it was a combination of personifying fear and write about the apocalypse. And then, so once I have the prompt, I just sit down and usually freehand is the first step. I just kind of start writing freehand, just whatever pops in my head. A sentence, the end sometimes comes to me quickly, and I'll just jot that down. And then a lot of the shitty first draft, coined by Anne Lamott, just getting it all out and most of the time I know whether it's going to be flash fiction or short story or what the length is going to be depending on what I'm doing it for. So, but most of the time I just write past that. I just write the story instead of focusing on the word count and the length. And then editing and taking out all the extra words. And flash fiction makes you a really good editor. You just got to get all the, it's got to stay under 1,000 or whatever your word count is. So you just take out everything you don't need. So yeah, so that's the overview of my process there.
That's great.
Wow. These are awesome questions. These are awesome questions. Thank you so much for sharing your work. It was awesome. Seriously, let's give it up. Give it up. Yes. Allison, where you mentioned places we can find your work, but where do you want us to keep up with what you're doing during this time?
Search me on Facebook. You'll find me. My Instagram is @spoonfulofwords. So you can find me there as well. You can find my work on snacksizefiction.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's give it up. Woo! First time on the mic.
Yes.
Yes.
That's awesome. Now I'm excited.
Yes. Now we can hear some of our other peeps. I'm so glad. Up next is Compose the Way. Let me tell you a little bit about this artist, okay? So I used to manage a music artist that had moved here from Detroit, and one of the first people she wanted to do a show with was Compose the Way. And luckily she had her contact. I didn't, but I remember the first time that I heard her perform, and I'm just so thankful that she has been able to perform at the mic drop a few times. But so can we give it up for Compose the Way?
Alex, it's so good to be here, honestly, and just thank you for the invite. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so thankful to have you. Yes, it's during this quarantine time, I feel like the artists, you guys matter more than ever before. So how are you doing? What's going on in your world?
It's very, 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 very up and down. I will say that. I'll be frank. Like, not every day is a great day, but not every day is a horrible day. And I'm just kind of taking each day for what it is and trying to make the next day a little bit better. So I don't know. It's been, honestly, like, the beginning of this was really, really hard to create. And it took me a while to get into a nice like flow where I even felt comfortable like creating, period. So I'm happy to kind of be out of that rut and playing again and feeling comfortable creating and just being able to channel a lot of what's going on into my art. So
That's really honest. That's really honest. I think a lot of people can relate to that because that's honest. And all of us learning to take it day by day because we don't even have an end in sight. That's really hard to fathom, you know? So we're with you. Are you performing new material?
I'm not. Well, I guess yes and no. I'm gonna play a song from my EP that came out a couple of years ago, and then I'm gonna play a new song. What's newish, I guess. It just hasn't been recorded yet, but I'm planning on recording a little project here in quarantine for the summer that it's gonna be on. So old and newish.
Awesome. Take it away.
Yeah, so this first song is called What Are We Gonna Do?
It takes time to learn the truth, realize who's feeling blue. Open up your mouth, I'm begging you, 'cause I've got no time to waste, no words to lose, no words to lose. like we should. Never agreed upon the grounds we stood. Oh darling, I think I know just how I feel, but it's far too good to be real. Through this wave of light, this wave of light, it pulls me over and under. Through this wave of light, this wave of light, it pulls me. Through this wave of light, this wave of light, it pulls me over and under. Through this wave of light, this wave of light, it pulls me over and under. I suiting you, and do you fit in with me? But if it's just us two, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Can we just figure it out, or is it too soon? Can we just figure it out beneath the moon? But if it's just us two, what are we gonna do? 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 Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so glad you played that. It's like my favorite song that you play, and I'm so excited to hear it tonight.
I'm glad I got it right. Kelsey and I were talking on Instagram earlier, and I was like, do you have any requests?
And I'm like, anything. I wasn't very helpful, but I was like, I'm excited to hear anything.
Oh, that's a good way to go into a digital show. To feel loved.
Yeah.
Just double checking. Are you recording the audio on your iPad separately too, Jordan?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Just making sure. Because we did have a little audio cut out, so I'm looking forward to being able to
Okay, cool.
chop the quality. What do you have next for us?
So this next song is called Daydreams, and this song kind of comes from a period when I was writing a lot of music about my relationships with other people and just like connections with other people, which is kind of where my EP entitled Connections stemmed from. And Composed Away was kind of like my way of taking back the power in a lot of situations where I felt really misunderstood or kind of undermined or unappreciated. So this song, Daydreams, comes from kind of a similar place in a similar situation. So this is Daydreams. holding your light. Daydreams, you're in my daydreams. I hope I'm in yours too. The stitches in your mind are on my heart too. Oh, the secret I hold for so long, trapped me in between. Oh, this feeling I'll never let go. Broken parts of you I still want to. I still want to. I still want to. I still want to. Daydreams in my daydreams. Daydreams, daydreams in my daydreams. Daydreams, daydreams in my daydreams. Daydreams, daydreams in my heart.
Whoa!
Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness.
Love
Thank you.
it. Beautiful.
That just like calms your spirit. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's the best thing.
I
Just
probably looked like I was sleeping or something. It was just like so relaxed.
Oh, I feel like
Thank you so much.
all of us are rocking back and forth.
Mhm.
We're your backup dancers.
I know, I kind of saw it. I was like trying to look away because I was like gonna get distracted.
oh,
I loved it. Thank
we were going on beat. You know?
you.
Would have been great if we could have gotten sync, like lined it up and all.
I feel like we kind of were. We kind of were.
Maybe getting in touch with the vibes. I don't know.
Yes, yes. It is your spotlight moment. Spotlight moment. So you're on the hot seat. I'm gonna start with our first question, and ladies, you come up with one too. Is there, and this is what I was thinking about, is there a certain feeling you intentionally try to evoke, like, or provoke with every song or with every EP, every album? That's my question.
Yeah, absolutely. There is always an intentional space that I try to create, and this goes with like any form of music that I write, but especially with the songs that I write. You know, I really like the feeling of being able to take people to another place, and really think that it's kind of important to practice being mindful and intentional about being present in a moment. And I really like to create music that does that for people, without them having to try too hard to be intentional and be about it in the moment. It's just kind of like you ease into it, and then you're there and you're like, okay, well, now I'm focused on this thing, or I'm completely thinking about this thing because I'm in the space that has allowed me to be there. So yes.
Alexis, you stole my question.
It was not intentional.
I just know that, so when Jordan and I first met, we didn't know that we had a friend in common, my friend Holly, and you were RAs together.
Mhm.
And B, you wrote a piece about my tattoo, which is like super cool.
Yeah, last year for my senior jazz recital, I wrote a composition entitled Instead that was inspired by KELSEY's Instead tattoo.
Yeah.
Oh, we have people combined here. Look at you all. Kelsey, how did it make you feel to have composed the way write a song inspired by?
It was really like incredible, because I literally just went up to Jordan. I was like, your music like brings joy. I think I was like, your music was like a blessing to me, I think is what I said. Because I was going through like, and I'm pretty sure this was like 2018. It seems like I was going through like a really tough season in my life, and I was like, my friend Kristen brought me, and we were just kind of sitting there and listening to it and listening to your music. And I went up and I was like, your music is like blessing my life. And you were just like, oh my gosh, I'm taken back by that. And I was like, no, like this is important. And I always feel that way whenever I hear music or see you perform around town, whether that was at, you know, the poetry room, mic drop, or wherever. I feel like you evoke this like atmosphere of like peace. Just like it just feels like pure. And I guess like going into the question of like what inspires you to write? Like how does it come up with the same, because I know like you have a variety of kind of styles and you're composing a lot of things, like literally, you know, like what comes through is like, okay, I'm gonna do this for like a piece for school, or I'm gonna do this for a piece for like my personal like compose the way brand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think especially with the music that I write for Compose Away, because it's literally my words, my spirit, like me using my hands to play the instrument. Like it's all authentically coming from me. It's not notes getting written down in a program or in a notation software and then printed out and handed to another person to interpret and to conceptualize. Like it's directly coming from me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, I think, you know, a lot of the times, especially with my songwriting, like I write either to process something or to remember that I processed something or that I experienced something. And when reflecting on those things, like I'm not a type of person who really likes to hold on to a lot of things. Like I will feel everything that I have to feel so that I can move through it and move forward and move past it, so that it's not like left on me to carry through the rest of my journey. So, you know, I think, yeah, I guess a sense of peace and acceptance is a common thing that, or a common place that I come to when I'm writing. So maybe that's kind of where it stems from. Because the music for me is like very spiritual, because it's literally coming from me and it's coming from the purest part of my creative spirit. So, yeah.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. Yeah. Allison, I'm sorry I keep muting you and unmuting you because I think the little one in the background should come perform and sing.
Well, she's singing. And she will if you invite her. She is not shy. She actually, I do an open mic in Mason sometimes, and she came and performed there.
She's more than welcome to perform on the mic drop. We can hear her every now and then. So
well, I was actually considering bringing her sometime before all this happened, because it coincides with the nights that we have her. And so I thought about bringing her out sometime, and I think just as soon as I had that thought, everything stopped. But
she's more than welcome to do the digital show. It's all ages, so
nice. My question is more technical, because I'm always, you guys ask me about my process, and I'm fascinated by other people's processes. I should know that. Especially songwriters, because I am tone deaf. I do not have an ounce of, I love music. I do not have an ounce of music creating talent in me. Do you, when you're starting to write a song, do the lyrics typically come first, or do you like hear a tune in your head and you're like, oh, I like that little tune, now I got to put some words to it? Or do you like write a poem first and then like put the music to it? How does that all work?
That's a good question, because I'm a poet and I don't know how musicians do it either. So please let us into your world. How do you go from writer to music and writing all in one? Beautiful. I'm with you.
Well, I will say this, as somebody who like really appreciates like effective and efficient communication, you know, I try really, really hard to be good at words, and I try really, really hard to put words together so that they make something that makes sense. And so like, I'm truly really envious of writers and poets, and you guys, you just have like a skill that I have to work really, really, really hard at to conceptualize and to feel like it's communicating what I'm trying to say in a clear way. So for me, like the music always comes first. Usually I'll find like the sound space that I want to work in. And then, you know, I'll sing a melody, and usually the melody will elicit some words. If I'm just kind of like happenstance writing, and I don't have something specific that I want to write about, I just like have a melody or a sound that I want to create and work in. But sometimes I do write out the words first and then kind of write a song around it. But those songs come out very differently. Like, there's a song that I wrote back in 2016 called Recount, and it was a response to the election, another time where I was feeling really, really horrible just in general about life, but also like feeling really debilitated creative wise. And so I wrote down all the words and stuff first and tried to piece together a song around it. But again, like, that process was so different, and that song came out a lot differently than even the 2 songs that you just heard, because those songs were written with this guitar in the middle of my bedroom floor somewhere, you know, just me trying to like cook up a sound space, really. So
I
yeah.
love it. That's so fascinating to me.
I agree. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I really envy y'all being able to just like purely express yourself through words, because it's so challenging for me, which is why I'm a full-time composer, songwriter, bass player. So we can work together.
It's cool that every artist can learn from one another. I think that's what's so
Oh,
cool about the
absolutely.
creative space. And even when we started the mic drop, I kept calling it a safe space for creatives. And it's funny because people that aren't creative would ask me, what does that even mean? And I'm like, it means coming as you are. It means it's a space we all can talk about it. It means it's a space where like everybody's diverse gifting is welcome. But this is exactly it, right? Because then you can see the beauty, like, hey, I have no idea how a song is written, you know, but writing, it's, you know, that's our gifting. And so that's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. Where can we find some of your work? Anything you're working on that's new? I mean, you gave a little preview to it.
Yeah. So the very first song you guys actually heard, I put out a video that I shot right here in my lovely bedroom at the end of last year. So if you search "What Are We Gonna Do," or you search "Compose the Way," all one word, um, you should be able to find it, and you should be able to find all of my music, because there's no other Compose the Way. But the best place to keep up with me is definitely on Instagram. My handle is just at Compose the Way, all one word. And like I said, yeah, I'm working on a bunch of different projects, recording some of my original music here, and you know, just finished working on a piece of music for the sister survivors of the Larry Nassar case. Literally just last week, I finished writing that piece. But yeah, the best way to keep up with me and all of the crazy things that I do is through Instagram. I'm launching my website. Hopefully sometime this summer. It's just like a whole big deal, because it's a space where I'm putting jazz stuff, composition stuff, and singer-songwriter stuff. So I'm really trying to like lay it out and make it real cool and super efficient for folks to use. But if you follow me on Instagram, you'll be able to hear when that is all done.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for being here. Let's give it up. Give it up. Compose the Way. Last but not least, a fellow poet, and I love just seeing the person you have continuously flourished into, because you've been coming to the open mic pretty faithfully, and I still remember the first time you performed a piece, and just as time has progressed, so I'm super excited to hear what you got. Can we give it up for KELSEY BRIANNE?
Okay, so I'm doing 2 pieces. I'm gonna put my phone up here. 1 second, bear with me. Okay, so so my first poem is kind of about like going through a difficult time but finding some hope in it, and I feel like right now we really need that with COVID, and so this is kind of where I'm coming from. So I still don't have a working title for this. I've had it for like 2 years, but maybe let me know.
Maybe people can comment below.
Yeah, comment below. What should I
Title.
call this poem? Okay. And yet I sit here in the pit of my soul, in the depths of my being and unbelief. unbelief in myself, unbelief in my worthiness, unbelief that my progress will cover up all my hurt, shame, and regret. When will the shadow stop being a constant companion? When will I feel like it can breathe in my freedom? When will the waters of salvation clean my sackcloths? When will it end? I don't know. I don't know that I need to know. I can only move forward and adapt and tell myself I love myself until I believe it. Fake it till you make it. That's what they say, right? Well, then damn, I'm about to be the happiest, fakest sunshine bitch ever. I'm about to radiate the suns, the stars, and the moon, running through fields of lavender, jumping into a pile of leaves, like I'm a tampon commercial. Like I'm empowered, like I'm someone, like I'm me, like I'm my own home. Someday it'll connect. I'll be safe in my home and my temple and me. And I look forward to that day because I know it's coming. But for now, I'm choosing to be here, to feel everything, to set good boundaries for myself, to grieve, to rest, to laugh, to have coffee with a friend, to read a good book, to paint, to dance like no one is watching in a friend's wedding when everyone is watching, to know that not all days will be fully bad or fully good, to embrace embodiment. So I breathe. I breathe in whatever today has for me. Even though I'm exhausted, even though I wake up and have to crack my hands and unclench my jaw because I've been grinding my teeth all night, even though I've set no less than 12 alarms to make sure I didn't make it to work late, even though I'm going to spell check the hell out of this poem and obsess and overthink every little phrase and paraphrase, even though I feel intimidated by today, by the prospect of having another panic attack at work, by the possibility of feeling melancholy and my tendency to play depression detective and connect all the pieces, but here goes nothing. Well, here goes everything. Here goes today, for today is a new day. Because I am here, and so are you. Take a deep breath, and I will too. And thank today for being today, and you for being you, and me for being me. And to do the damn thing. It's only here for today.
Woo! Oh, I'm trying to unmute people.
Yeah.
Do the damn thing. Love it.
Yeah, I wrote that and it like seriously was a game changer for me. So I appreciate. I'll take all the love.
All that flip the narrative. I feel like there's a lot of piece where I have to like flip the narrative, whatever the thoughts are, and having to flip it. I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I call it pivoting. I have to pivot a little bit, you know. All right. So the next one I have a title for. It is The Girl with Grit, and it's my newest piece. Let me tell you something about a girl with grit and magic, the duality of pain and power, saint and sinner, and the complexities of being fully alive and fully a woman. For it is deep and wide and beautiful and mighty and lovely and entirely exhausting to keep this half-hearted, happy face grin going. She breathes in and out the same way the streetlights flicker at midnight. The emptiness of her heart feels like a silent cathedral. The acoustics are just right, and God is still in motion. She is still in motion. It is holy here, fully present in times of need. Every part of her is art. From the tips of her toes to the top of her head, she is a miracle and a masterpiece. The way she is woven, the patterns of her freckles, all come together in their unique and beautiful constellations. I wonder what story her neurons would choose if they could speak. Would they whisper a long-held truth or boast about a time where she was stronger than even she thought she was? Would they remind us that she adapted and remained all at once? If I could point out one of my favorite things about your beauty is how you are ever changing. From sunrise to sunset to shadows and raindrops, ever changing, but always remembering that there is value in the roots and in the beginning. After all, there were roots before branches, a melody before a song, and a moment before it was a memory. And in this moment, I feel the sun on my skin and the wind in my hair. I remind myself the divine feminine is inside of me, here, now. I breathe in what could be my last breath, trusting in the prayer that is breathing. I choose to see the light in me. I pause and hold space for the wonderful moment that I suddenly realize that I am worthy of all the adoration I give to others. I am a cathedral. I am light, love, and happiness. There's no pursuit, only what is. She's been in me this whole time. There's no turning back into who I never was. This is one for the history books, folks. A day where I woke up and walked out. Falling in love with yourself is a daily, hourly, minute by minute lesson. But I'm a willing student, bowing in the pews of the divine. I am not God, but she is in me. I radically accept that I'm capable of singing to the choir. The hallelujahs are more radiant and real than ever before. The amens are more holy. The self-hate has filled a need long gone. My inner critic and frankly reasonable voice says this is going to be difficult. And I reply, I have to try.
Ooh. Thanks. How did that feel?
It feels empowering. It feels empowering.
I just have to say, I am so thankful to be on this call with such powerful women. Like, all of you are such powerful women. Yes. Strong women intimidate boys. What does it say?
Excitement.
And excitement.
Ooh, I love that shirt. Where can I find it? Ooh, okay, Kelsey, it is your spotlight moment. I want one of you guys to ask your first question. Anybody got a question for Kelsey?
So I guess so fiction's a little bit different. I write the stuff and, share a story. What do you like when you're writing a poem like that? What do you do with it when it's done, besides read it at like mic drop and poetry readings? Or open mics, do you use it and like read it to yourself, like just by yourself when you need it?
Interesting. So that's a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. Like, what do I do after I write it? So I definitely, so sometimes I actually use, like when I'm writing it, sometimes I use the talk to text feature. So I'm speaking it into existence, almost like I'm literally speaking it in. And I use a variety of different things. I have chronic pain, and so it just depends on like, I prefer to type. It just depends on the day what I'm able to physically do or not do. But generally the first person I share my poems with, after I've edited and gone through and like I said in the first poem, like editing, and it's sometimes I kind of just have to let it go. And I know that I'm going to want to like spell check everything and make sure everything's right. But at a certain point you kind of just have to like, and I'm also a painter, so I know sometimes I just don't know when to stop and it gets overcomplicated. So generally for me, I have to like know this moment, I have to put everything down, set it down, and just let it be. And then typically, the first person I share my poems with is my friend Angie. She's an incredible friend and someone who I'm super close with and tends to connect with my poetry on a very like, not visceral, but just like usually really gets it and it hits home with her. And so, and it's like always positive feedback. So, and then the next place I would probably send it to would be, honestly, like I usually try to like post it pretty soon after, maybe like the next day on like Instagram or Facebook. I'll show my handles and stuff later, but I try to release it pretty soon after I write it, because I know that the growth and the change in me is not my own. Like I know that like once I have my art, like I know that it's personally what I created, but I know that it's not just for me. And I see writing and art and all these things as incredibly spiritual and valuable, because I know how much other art and other poetry and other fill in the blank creativity has impacted my life. So I know that like my words are for other people as well. So typically I, give it to a few close friends, like my friend KELSEY as well. And then I'm pretty much like, I need to put this out. Yeah.
Love it. Well, you should read that one to yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, that one definitely has been like a mirror talking. Like I just say that a lot to myself for sure.
Jordan, compose away. Do you have a question?
I'm like trying to sort through my questions. I have like 6 half questions through my mind right now.
Them all together.
We can let you have 2. Why don't you ask 1 and then we'll go.
Well, okay. Let me get my words together here. So I know that KELSEY and we have had some conversations about like your journey and like your faith, and I guess my question is, has like your faith inspired your art and your poetry? I said, how has your faith like inspired or influenced your art and your poetry?
Ooh, that is a good question. Okay. Because I feel like there's also like 6 half things that I want to get into. So I was someone who grew up super conservative. One second, my screen just like merged. Sorry. I grew up like super conservative Baptist, and then I entered a time of, and I want to start out by saying that like this is my story, and this is not to project or say that anyone should follow this way. This is just like literally answering the question, and so I want to just like make that really clear.
You're a good girl.
The internet wants to go after me. I'm like, this is just like KELSEY's story. I watch way too much YouTube. Okay. So anyways, I grew up super conservative Baptist, and then a lot of things led me to deconstruct that part of my faith, and I came to a space where I realized that my faith journey is to stand for the marginalized, and my position in my faith is to be an advocate. And I definitely would consider myself to be a seeker, I guess, and someone who tends to dip into different faith traditions. So I almost like, I don't know what to like label myself, because I am a Christian by definition, I suppose, but that label brings on so much garbage that I don't want to have added on to me. So, but I mean, I think that for me, how my faith has influenced my art is how I have really learned how to embrace the gospel and how much it really has meant on my life. And also how seeing my work and actually understanding that on a very pure level, and putting aside the political and like all of this stuff aside, and just looking at the story of Jesus and being so inspired and wanting to create like beautiful things. Because for the longest time, let's be like, as women, like we have so many standards put on us, right? Like so many standards, and like just stuff that like is unfairly put on us. And I realized that in my art, sometimes I need to create beauty, I need to create beautiful things, I need to write beautiful things that inspire people, because like I need it, So I guess it's kind of rambly a bit, but my faith inspires me to be more present and to make things that are really important, and give voices to the marginalized. And yeah, I guess it's kind of the answer there.
A deep answer. Great answer. I love it. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I met you at the mic drop, I actually wasn't sure if you were a poet. You would come frequently and didn't perform for a while. And then you had said that you were going to perform. And so maybe, and I don't know if this is a false perception, but I view you as like I feel like I've seen you evolve as a poet from like the first performance to now. So my question is, what have you learned? And I've also seen a change in your poetry. So what have you learned about yourself as you've evolved as a poet?
Ooh, that's a deep AF question.
I know. You know why? Because Allison start us off? Deep AF.
So the question
Digging in there.
These are powerful deep AF women right here.
I feel like when Alexis is leading the conversation, we're going to go there anyways. We're going to talk about seasons. We're going to talk about keywords. We're going to talk about
That is so true. That is so
boundaries. We're going to
I receive that. I receive that. We will. You were frozen for a second. Okay, you're back. Yes, getting deep AF is like a part of just my natural. It doesn't work well in relationships, I don't think, long term, but
I have a hard time having surface conversations, so this is like perfect. So your question I want to reiterate is that, like, as I've evolved as a poet, what have I learned about myself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. One thing that I've learned is that and kind of going back to like the things that are placed on us as women, I've realized that like I'm learning to meet with this with compassion, because my therapist is always like, just recognize it and not like be curious and not judgmental, which is like, wow. But basically I'm learning to recognize that I put a lot of false pressure on myself for things that like is only, the pressure is like my pressure. So like I want to write more poems. Well, no one's asking me to do that. Like and so it's one of those things where I can very easily get hard on myself for something that is, in a large scheme of things, is like it. How do I say this? Like, I'm learning to love my pace of how I do things. I'm learning to love my little quirks that I have with writing, because I'm honestly like a kind of a baby poet a little bit. Not baby, but like, I mean, I just started writing in 2018. Like, I did not write poetry growing up. Like, this is very new. And so I guess like what I'm learning is that I'm noticing that I'm critical of myself, and I'm learning how to be self-compassionate. And it's almost been like a healing process for me, because I'm able to kind of step outside of it and be like, wow, I'm being really hard on myself for something that's going to be really beautiful. Like, I'm being really hard on myself right now, and just learning to check in with my body and do like a body scan and mindfulness practices. But the thing that I'm learning about all that is that, like, even though I'm harsh on myself, I'm learning that I'm capable of loving myself almost at the same volume.
That was deep. That was deep. Even though I'm harsh on myself, I'm learning to love myself at the same volume.
Mm-hmm.
I can fully relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because I was talking to my best friend, Chelsea. I was talking to her, and I've kind of had this theme of like, in 2020, like I was like, I want to fall in love. I really want to fall in love. And
Self. No, I'm just kidding.
that's honestly what it's come to, because I've been like, I really want to fall in love with myself and get to know myself on a very deep level. And I feel like by meeting my self-criticism with compassion, I'm able to be way more present as a friend, I'm able to be here now. And that is not easy, friends. And so the fact that I'm able to actually like be able to be present in the moment and meet like my little quirks of compassion means that I'm capable of growing much more than I am now. And so I'm really excited to see what kind of poet I'm going to blossom into, seeing that this is very much the seeds that we're still at the roots. And so I'm just super excited, I guess, is my answer.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Good, Kelsey.
You're so good. Where can we find some of your work, Kelsey?
So on Instagram, I am KB_instead. And then I always forget the order of my Facebook page. So 1 second. It has, so it's, my Facebook page is KELSEY BRIANNE, Poet, Artist, Advocate. So I'm much more active on Facebook, but KB_instead is where my Instagram is. And so I post, I'm also like a visual artist as well. So I post them there, and just advocacy stuff that I'm working on. That's kind of where my hub is.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. Let's give it up. Let's give it up. I didn't think about this. I'm not performing on this spotlight, but if you have any questions for me, you're more than welcome to throw it out there. If you have them, there's no pressure though. I haven't performed anything. But
I have a question for you.
oh, go for it. Let's go.
Okay. What are you learning about yourself as a poet, as someone who is more hosting creatively? I know that you're performing a lot, but you have been in a position where you're doing kind of more of the back end of things, of like managing and your business and all of this. Like, how are you nurturing your artistic soul while having more of a business aspect of that as well? Like, how do you
Now I know how all of you felt because my heart is pounding so heavy in my chest. I feel sweat dripping down my armpit. I lost half the question. No, just kidding.
I mean, it was a pretty wordy question, so that's fair.
So how am I cultivating, like, how am I as a creative when right now I'm working behind the scenes to uplift others' creative things? Is that what you mean?
Like, how are you feeding the source? Like, how are you, like, in yourself opposed to like what you're producing out here? Like at home when you're writing, like in your house or whatever, like what is like when people don't see things, like how do you nurture your artistic soul, self-care?
Ooh, this is honestly, I don't think I'm doing a very good job. I'm all about being real and transparent. So this has been a really challenging time for me as a creative because I'm also a CEO. I run a company and like I started it 3 years ago. So it's at an infancy stage still. It's not, I mean, who knows when you're fully established, and I don't think even businesses that have been running for 10 years, we're not prepared for this. And thank God I'm a good steward of money and had a savings and have a business account. But, so it's interesting because I think my creativity had to go on hold. It did. And I remember in the beginning, the first couple of weeks being like, I just need to write and express myself. And like a lot of my writing was not only dark, but incomplete. And I couldn't flip it to be positive. And then I would get frustrated about my craft. And it was like what was once my outlet was now becoming this thing, this standard of like, I must not be an artist if I'm not creating something. And so I think I have just had to have grace with myself. A lot of weird things happened, like full vulnerability, went through a breakup during this time that I did not see coming at all. And like just this quarantine time really challenged me. And so as a creative, I think it went on the back burner, and I'm going to say God is so good, but like, it's interesting because in the midst of journaling, in the midst of processing with like my higher power, like just processing what I actually feel, it's like the creativity has almost evolved differently. So, I feel empowered to empower others. So even as I was sitting on this call or on this Zoom, hearing all of you with your pieces, Allison, when you're reading yours, and like, you know, Jordan, you're talking about the stuff you're working on, and like KELSEY, you're sharing like your journey. I was thinking, wow, I need to work on some new pieces. But then immediately the next thought, because I'm learning to program myself in a positive manner. It's like, but my gift right now is to uplift people with media. Like I'm actually really fortunate that is my background, that's what I went to school for, that's what I get paid to do. And so how cool that like, I mean, I'm doing this for free, you know, like I'm doing this because I love it. How cool that this gets to be my creative outlet and gift. And so it's almost like I'm reinventing myself. So it's like, hey, Alexis is not just the poet or the writer, which I still am. I'm still journaling. I am writing. But Alexis is also the art advocate, the motivator, I want to be like a female boss babe. Like, you know, like that's who I want to be. I want to be a female boss babe. And I want other people to be like, I love that she's producing stuff. And so, how am I cultivating creativity within myself? Honestly, I want to like pull this whiteboard. I have a huge whiteboard. I'm a big visionary and I have little dreams. I've actually want to publish a book. So I might need to talk to you, Allison. But, and so all these dreams that I have had on the back burner, because I have been creating content, it's like, what am I doing with all this content I've created? So what am I doing with all these poetry pieces? So I've been working on a cinematic poetry album, but so now I have to put myself in the administrative execution CEO role to get that out there, because it's been in music production process, it's been in video recording process, but it hasn't gone out to the world. And so I don't know if that fully answers your question, but so I actually am not really creating anything new. I'm trying to push forward what I already have and do what I'm doing now reinvent myself in a different way. So like, I still wanted the open mic to be consistent. I'm reinventing how I do it in a different way. My energy of like writing poetry instead of writing it, I'm actually just executing it in different forms. Like, so going from performance to book, going from audio recordings to having music producers partner with me. And it's cool because it's not just about me now. It's like, these projects are about having editors be a part of the process, having music producers be a part of something bigger than themselves, having graphic designers design covers. Like, so it's weird. So right now I do feel way more administrative, and I mean, my list today of executing other people's tasks, helping with media, helping create content for magazines. Like, I am doing way more administrative stuff than I'm not the talent right now, but that is okay, because I'm building something for my talent to go out to the world just later on. And during this time, if that is the best fit in the role for me to be effective and to be helpful, like, I'm humbled and honored and like get just as filled up by seeing other people filled up. So I don't know if that answers your question. I am like, the self-care side, I don't even know. I feel like, honestly, it feels reciprocal. Like, when I serve people, I feel served. So like, that's how I feel about it. So I don't know if that answers your question. And it's super genuine. Like, I'm not even making it up.
That's incredible. Yeah, definitely answers my question. What is your Enneagram number? Do you know?
I'm a 3. I'm an achiever.
I'm a 2, the helper. So I was curious. I didn't know if we all knew our numbers or whatnot, but I can just consider a 3. The Enneagram is a personality test, but it's like very, I don't know how to just, it's very like intuitive. And
I actually have like a book, because I did a group with it. I was helping my friend know their number. Anyway, it's just 7. It's kind of like a Myers-Briggs, but instead it's 7 different personality types, and you categorize, you can find your fears, your motivators, your core longings, and kind of how you operate. So
it's super helpful to get to know someone. So I was like wondering, and then you said 3, and I'm like, yeah, because I'm a 2-wing 1, and so.
Okay, we're to confuse people.
I know. I'm like, just
look it up. If you are an Enneagram person, put your number down on the comments. I don't know. That was so deep. I feel like I took a lot of time answering that question. So are there any more questions?
Well, I just have more of a comment. I just want to say, like, I'm super proud of you for still keeping this running and going every week in the midst of quarantine. Like, I don't think you realize how much it's like actually helping people and have this like sense of normalcy. Yeah, I know it helped me a lot when I saw you doing the first one. I was like, oh, like everything sucks, everything stopped, but my crop's still going on. So the world's not over. We're going to be all right. So I just want to say I'm super proud of you, Lex, and thank you for doing this and bringing us all together to do this tonight. All of you have been super inspiring me. And I really look forward to reading some more of your work and hearing more of Kelsey's poetry and hearing some of your poetry and working with you. And just like, I love the energy on this call. So I'm really appreciative of this time that we've gotten to spend together.
Oh, stop. That's so sweet. Thank you. No, and it couldn't be possible without all of you artists. And I know there's other platforms that they're doing, you know, their work too. And I'm like, the more the merrier, the more the artists can show their work. But I'm thankful for this space because it does always feel like authentic, genuine people. And so it wouldn't be possible without all of you performing. And there was a week I was concerned. I was like, I am stalking people to get them to perform. And so, but I think that was it was a low week, and that's okay. And so thank you so much. And thank you all for being a part of this. And we'll wrap it up with that. This is the mic drop.
Thank
See
you.
you next week. Yay!